Go.
All right, ready to start? Go. So the economics of the news article are broken. If a reporter making $30,000 a year, if they are finding all the sources, talking to them, writing, and then publishing, can really only put out about 300 stories a year. And even in a major metropolitan market, that's only getting about 1,000 page views. So as print revenue declines and it becomes online only, newspapers are faced with the challenge of saying, we're going to either lose $88 on every article or find another way of getting these getting local content, especially in local communities. So what we found is if you can engage an audience in the creation of that content, you can get higher engagement, you can get higher impact of your journalism, and you can get new streams of revenue and decrease costs and cover more of the community. But when you think about online comments, whether that's on news forums or the comment section, you see the anonymous ranting there. It can hardly be called journalistic. So we thought, if you're building a participation platform, what are the key things that are needed to make that content really relevant? What we found are three things. The first is getting the right people in the room. So if the problem is a budget crisis in the school, then how do you get the parents and the teachers and the school committee members all in the same room and contributing valuable content? The second, so I guess the presentation isn't working quite right, but the second is confirmed identity. So getting real people using real names on the issue. We confirm off the voter registration record and have background information on the people through profiles and a reputation system that shows what they've been doing on the site. The third is structured so that people can get high quality information from the content. So using game mechanics and voting, you can source the best content from the community, and people can see what are the issues that matter to them, and keep up to date through email notifications, sort of issue of the week. We integrate with newspapers. We're working with the Boston Globe right now.
All right, that's it.
And
thanks, Connor.
Looks like your slides weren't. What were the videos in there?
Yeah, so the videos were screenshots of our site, so it's really disappointing that it didn't show up because it actually zoomed. So we've got an integration with the Boston Globe, and so it was zooming through. We're launching a few communities there, and it was zooming through. You basically would have. I can describe what it looks like, but it's confirmed people using real names, their pictures, and the comments that they've put up, which the content that the users have been generating has been just of really high quality. We found that,
How do you actually handle the confirmation of local voters? How does that work?
So when users register on the site, on the online town comment, they're all registered voters in that community. So users come in and they have to put first name, last name, date of birth, and street address. And we have uploaded all the voter registration records. So there's some geotagging and there's some stuff on the back end, but we're able to match up the records with what they're saying. And then we've also seen so that will get you like 99% of the way there. But what's interesting too is, especially on these local issues, people are really passionate. So we've seen there was a budget issue once where someone who had the same name as a town finance officer said something that was different than what the public official had been saying, and we got a bunch of emails. So users keep track of people as well, but confirmed identities through the voter record.
As I'm not registered to vote, I'm not allowed to. How can I participate?
So one of the things we found that we're working on right now is saying, okay, the initial platform that we launched was just confirmed voters and only launching in communities where we had a threshold of users and elected officials. But what we're seeing now is that there are a lot of people who are, have a stake in the community or whose voice needs to be heard. Basically what we're doing is using a social recruitment system, so people can say, this is someone who needs to be in this conversation that fills this sort of role. That's the sort of thing we're working on right now, because there are a lot of people like you who have a stake but can't necessarily vote.
Can you maybe tell us what's been your most successful project run off the platform so far, and how would you measure that?
So we measure success, based on based on the content that's being created from users, right, and the number of users who are weighing in on these issues. I'd say one of our more successful issues was we had a school committee member, post this question in a town that had to do with they were talking about merging two schools together, and it just got, there were, it was a small town, so only 5,000 people are even voting, but we had 110 people in 3 days weighing in on this and voting and posting comments and ranking comments and those sort of things. A lot more people watching it than participating, because that's, generally you see a lot of people lurk. But that was one of our really interesting issues, because those are 110 people who can't show up to a public meeting, but they were still able to interact directly with their elected official that way.
When I went on the site, it seemed that you've launched only in Massachusetts and only in a few towns there. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your model for seeding communities, rolling them out? What does it take for a community to succeed on this? Yeah,
so the first few communities were basically figuring out what that model is for scaling out, and what we developed was it's a launchpad model. So we'll go. The Globe was our first big customer, and so what we do is when we go with the newspaper, we say, all right, if you want to cover 10 communities, we'll basically put up sort of a competition. So users can go on, they can say, I want a Localocracy in Lowell, or I want a Localocracy in Cambridge. And they can use Facebook and email to recruit other people who live in that town to support that. And once we have a threshold of people ready to launch a community, and we have elected officials who are ready to launch a community, then we'll turn that community on. With the Globe, we're integrated with their, they already have a hyperlocal section of their site, and so that's what, they're a good initial partner. But basically right now we're talking with a bunch of newspapers across the country about rolling out in those communities. And so the first step is setting up these launch pads so that we know which are the communities where the people and the elected officials are most anxious to start it up.
Good. It sounds like there's kind of three different buckets you're playing with. One is connecting the community themselves, two, connecting with the elected officials in the area, and then three is connecting and being able to propagate that information through journalism. Is there obviously the journalism, is that more of the focus, or there's kind of three constituencies coming together in an interesting way? The
key thing that we're interested in, right, it's a problem that journalists have been solving for hundreds of years, right? How do you get really good information from a large group of people? And that's a problem that, it has applications in journalism, it has applications in business, it has applications in government. We're focusing on the local because that's the place where the reporters are stretched the most thin right now. And it's a place where the economics can be pretty clear, and the potential can be really clear for the news organization. So right now what we're focused on is user acquisition, distribution, and sort of perfecting the model so that we can, as we grow, say okay, now we can make sense of 25 people talking at once. Now we can make sense of 200 people talking at once. Now as we grow, we can deal with larger numbers and still getting the high quality information, and also enabling people to use that information to make a decision. I think that's having results come out of the interaction is one of the key things that we're focused on.
How do you view this with kind of a lens thinking of AOL's Patch, kind of super local content?
So we've actually spent a lot of time talking with the people over at Patch. But the key is, they're faced with that same economic challenge. They've got one reporter, making about $45,000, who's got to just try and cover every single thing in the community. Patch has made some effort to get some user-generated content through a Q&A system. But if you compare the Arlington Patch with the Arlington Localocracy, we had about 18 times more participation than the Patch Q&A. So there's. And
why is that?
Confirmed identities, the interaction, the launch process that we have. They also have the difficulty of trying to roll, we have the ability to sort of learn, and we're focused specifically on participation, where they're just focused on, pumping out as much content as they possibly can. So I think, we've figured out some game dynamics, and we figured out that there are key things you need on a platform to make it relevant to people. People only participate when they feel like it can have a positive impact on their life. So if it's just a random QA, it's not that useful for them.
Can you tell us a bit about your team and your
Sure, that's my favorite part, right? So my background was in actually political organizing. I helped co-direct a voter registration office down in Virginia. I was sort of sparked by the Egyptian strikes in 2008, and also everything that was happening in 2008. But I felt like Facebook and Twitter are great for mobilizing around a very simple message, whether it's Mubarak out or a certain candidate in. If we're going to actually get sort of grassroots intelligence and have the sort of grassroots movements, you need a better way to tap knowledge from a community. So I came in from that perspective. I also helped run the campaign that decriminalized marijuana in Massachusetts, which was an interesting thing of not having an on-the-ground infrastructure. We had a 60,000-person Facebook group we worked with. But my technical team is what I'm really proud of, because my co-founder, he's right over there, Aaron Souls. Aaron built a hyperlocal social network that was actually before Facebook, but when he was a like high school student. But then our lead developer, he built a hyperlocal Twitter trend aggregator that had like 200,000 users in the first 2 months. And then our first board member, he had been one of the founders of PeopleSoft, but had also been a town meeting member in the first town we launched, and just sort of seen what we were trying to do and got really excited about it. And so he came in as well. And then we recently won the Poynter Promise Prize in entrepreneurial journalism, and we bootstrapped initially. We just won, like bootstrapped from customers, and we were from UMass Amherst. We won the UMass Amherst Innovation Challenge twice, and that was what got us the small amount of funding that got us off the ground. But then we just received an investment from the Knight Foundation. So we're one of the for-profits that's up here, though.
Can you talk a little bit about how your project and your product could really drive voter registration for people who want to come in and participate? Because it seems like it could really, spark.
So we're, there's definitely this sort of, the issue that you were talking about, I think, is really significant. That's one of the things that we found is, and one of the things that we're about to roll out a new release. We didn't have it totally ready for this, but ways to identify the people who should be in the conversation who may not be registered voters yet, whether that's students or people in the immigrant community or what have you. But yeah, I think one of the key things is that the news has always sort of been this bridge between citizens and the government. When we think about the civic journalism especially, so if we can have a sort of interactive journalism that can really make policy more intelligent and also encourage new people to participate, that's one of the sort of social missions that we have as well, is just making government smarter.
All right.